Hi everyone and welcome to In the Sewers. In the Sewers is a series where I sit down and talk to bands varying in genres of rock and ask them where they're coming, where they're going, what they've been doing, and just having a general chit chat. We're coming up with some amazing things and I can't wait to share them with you all. In this week's episode, I am talking to Edinburgh-based hard rock band Blackfyre Rising. The four guys decided to settle down with me and film in a bit about themselves. They are relatively new to the scene and are hoping to expand their horizons beyond Edinburgh and Glasgow and come across the border and get some fans a bit further south. We talk about their inspirations, what they've got planning going on, and yeah, just having a bit of a chat. So let's settle down and have a natter with the guys from Blackfyre Rising.
Hi guys, welcome to In the Sewers. How are you all doing?
Very well.
Doing good. Thanks.
Well,
Thanks for having us.
it's all right. So who have I got joining me today then? Introduce yourselves.
Who's going to go first?
You.
Will I go first? I feel like I put my head above the parapet. Hi, I'm James. I'm singer and rhythm guitarist, co-guitarist for Blackfyre Rising.
I'm Tom. I'm the
no.
drummer. Oh no!
Yeah.
You beat me to it.
Dave, Tom, Dave.
I'm Tom.
Yeah,
I'm the drummer of the band Blackfyre Rising.
I'm Dave. I'm the other guitar player and backing vocalist.
And I'm Magnus and I play bass.
Whee! There we go, all four of y'all. Lovely to have you guys here. So I would class you guys as kind of a hard rock kind of band with a little bit of a tinge of classic knocking about in there, but ailing towards a bit of the heavier side. How would you class yourselves? What category would you put yourself in?
That, to be honest, I think I basically would be that. We've heard grunge being mentioned a couple of times as well, but I think you've summed it up pretty well, to be honest.
Yeah, sort of contemporary modern hard rock band, I would say.
Yeah. We're
Was
part
there
of
not-
a Facebook group, New Wave of Classic Rock.
Yeah.
So occasionally we
I was
get
going to
kind
say,
of-
was there not some sort of technical term we're missing here? And that was it.
No
New
Walker.
Wave.
I'm not. Is that No Walker? It's because when you think of classic rock, you think like kind of Free and Cream and Led Zeppelin and stuff like that. I'm
Yeah.
not sure if I don't know what the new wave of that is supposed to be, but I don't know. We're more sort of
We're more kind of
more of a
like-
hard rock band, I think.
Yeah, and when we say hard rock, I think sometimes, I have friends who aren't particularly into rock, and you say hard rock, and then they hear the guitars, and I think they jump to metal. We're definitely not a metal band. So yeah, I'd say that kind of hard rock. Well, Dave and I are big fans of Alter Bridge, and we've got Blackstone Cherry in the mix, and yeah, that
Awesome
kind
Chains.
I think that's where we'd group ourselves, and those are typically the kind of bands that we play alongside.
Is it like I've watched a couple of your live performances on YouTube and things like that, and you guys seem to be quite tight knitted as well. You seem to really work really, really well together. How did you guys get together to start with?
I met James first. Well, I knew Dave first from a previous band we were in together, which I think lasted about 5 minutes. And then I met James at the open mic at the Banshee Labyrinth in Edinburgh, and I wanted to put a band together for ages, and I saw James singing and just kind of the way he performs and almost looks a little bit like Miles Kennedy. I thought, yeah, he'll do. So,
Yeah,
got
I get that vibe. I get that
got
vibe.
talking to him. I got
You're
talking
too
to him.
kind. You're too kind. I'll pay you handsomely after this.
Yeah,
He
make
gets
sure my
that
check's
lot.
in the mail, I'm telling you.
got talking to James, spoke to Dave about it as well, and we had our original bass player was actually at college with me, and he was with the band for a couple of years, and then the pandemic happened and we just had time off, and then just reformed, and we got Magnus in, who was actually James's cousin, so he's just a quick phone call away.
Andy. Here, come and sort this out, will you?
Yeah.
Basically, yeah, me, James and Dave were just in the pub literally. It's like, oh, we need a bassist. Magnus, you want to play bass then? Sure. All right.
Why not? While I'm here, may as well.
He's really a guitar player in disguise.
True.
But sometimes guitarists just need a nice, easy way in. So dropping down to bass is just a natural thing, isn't it?
One less string to worry about, mate.
So, have you guys got any plans for 2024? Anything particularly exciting? Have you got some new music sorting? Are we recording? What have we got happening up north?
There isn't like a set plan at the moment. I'm trying to work on getting shows down south. It's not we've not crossed the border just yet, but I'm gonna look into making that being the main agenda. And I think we'll probably work on an EP because we're releasing a few singles at the moment. We've done 2 singles. We've got 2 more planned for this year. And then yeah, probably an EP after that, and just see what happens.
Yeah, we've spoken about things like there's a music video in the works and things like, supporting promo materials, so putting together a photo shoot. But yeah, we've got a decent kind of number of gigs this year. We've got a few more to see us out of 2023, and yeah, hopefully going to hit 2024 and just continue doing more of the same. I think we could say that we've had a pretty good inning thus far.
We've done well.
Just keep it up. Yeah.
It's the main thing. As long as you've got a plan of some description.
Well, that's the thing. We've had some really good shows. We've been able to support like Kira Mack and Twister. I know you're friends with Stevie. Supported loads of big bands.
Yes.
So it'd be good if it'd be we've had some good shows. It'd be good to carry on from that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to play down there, neck of the woods would be good.
Oh,
yeah, definitely.
You should always come down to like Newcastle and that way. We've got a great scene with like music and that going on. It's brilliant. It's really, really good.
I have heard there's a really good rock scene down there for sure.
Well, Tom, you can speak their language, Tom.
That's almost.
You need a translator. You definitely need one to translate it, that's for sure.
To be fair, we're as much as James, myself, and Magnus are from even further north in Edinburgh. We've got extremely neutral accents for that neck of the woods, so you're probably doing all right.
I was gonna say, because you don't sound like you're from the over the hills and far away, Tom. So whereabouts are you actually from?
Well, I was born in Chesterfield in Derbyshire, but we moved up to basically near Skye when I was 2, and yet somehow I've not got that accent either, which makes absolutely no sense, and nobody can answer how this has happened. And then I came to Edinburgh, I want to say 8-9 years ago, something like that. I originally came here to study, and of course I studied music, which is a very useful degree to get, but we won't talk about that.
Well,
I've been here for quite a while, but yeah, I'm the Sassenach of the group for sure.
As much as as much as Tom has, the English accent of the group, he's arguably from a more, I don't know, what would you say, like biscuit tin Scotland than the rest of us. I mean,
True. There's a lot of weed wearing.
Yeah, the three of us kind of come from, well, Dave's from Aberdeen, and then Magnus and I are from Bantshire, so kind of chuchters, as we would say, country bumpkins. But we all made our way to Edinburgh. So we're an Edinburgh band, but whenever we play up north in Aberdeen, we're always kind of quite keen to tag home. Well, actually, we're from here rather than being Edinburgh based.
Get them on your side a little bit.
Yeah, you bang my drum, yeah.
We play that up, and then we play down the fact that we fled screaming.
Yeah.
Got chased out with pitchforks.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
We're quick to use the line. What is it? We're an Edinburgh-based band, but none of us are actually from there. So
yeah,
figure that one out.
Everybody knows where Edinburgh is, so it's nice and safe, isn't it? It's like, oh yeah, that's the only place in Scotland other than Glasgow that people tend to know.
Yeah,
it's a good place to be.
Exactly. So what are your influences for your music? How do you guys get together and start writing about things and stuff like that? What's your thought process is probably the angle that I'm looking at.
Well, I think James started something up really well, and he talked about like Alter Bridge and Black Swan Cherry and similar bands like that. I think when we first got together as a trio before we got our original bass player in, I had a couple songs written already from like years ago that just didn't have any vocals, but basically the whole song was already written. Like our first single, Chainbreaker, was already basically fully written. And I just brought it to them in my flat one day. It's like, what do you think of this one? And then it stuck, really. I think that's been there the longest. Because I've been the drummer, but I play guitar as well. So there's like a four-way writing thing going on. I just can't write lyrics to save my life, so that's fully on James. He has all that responsibility.
Yeah, same. But no, yeah,
And
you're
it
right. Like Chainbreaker was definitely kind of, so that was kind of our patient zero, I would say. Like that's where it kind of all kind of began, and it was kind of appropriate that became our first single, first foray into the world.
Yeah.
In that sense.
Originally, we started with 4 songs that were aptly named Song 1, Song 2, Song 3, and Song 4. And we eventually kind of developed those, and they became the first 4.
Yeah, that worked right up until Blur sued us.
Yeah, I was going to say Stone Cherry's got a song called Song 3, so Stone Sour.
Yeah. It's a minefield, that whole artistic direction.
Exactly. You don't want Corey Taylor and Blur getting on your ass about it, do you?
Nah, no.
Probably
If they want to have us support them, that's a different thing. But
Yes.
yeah.
I played it.
Like a
I did play a gig once with one of my old bands in Glasgow, and it was the same night Stone Sour were playing, and as a result, nobody was at our show. They were all over at the Barrowlands, wherever it was, but nobody came to our gigs. We just played to the headliner. It's like, oh well, should have seen this coming.
You know, it's somebody, isn't it? A man and his dog. It's not necessarily who you want. Oh well.
True.
So what do you guys think of Corey Taylor? Because he's always in the music news about something. Do you guys understand the fascination with him? Because I personally don't. But he always seems to be in music news.
I do get it to an extent. I mean, he's obviously a famous guy. I mean, if you're in a band like Slipknot and then Stone Sour, you can't be unknown in any way. I don't know what his views of the world are. I'm just not interested in following that kind of stuff. But I do get where the appeal kind of comes from.
Yeah, I dare say part of it kind of came from the Slipknot days of him being this kind of like almost like mystical, enigmatic character. Because obviously nobody kind of knew much about them back then with all the masks and stuff.
That's true.
So for him to kind of, transcend that into, that outside world, I guess people kind of stuck to it. But he's a cool guy, as far as I can tell.
But people our generation, like we all grew up with Slipknot, so and Stone Sour and stuff. So I suppose anyone from back then is going to have a lot of gravitas with people around our age.
I think it might be because I was a bit more of a Korn fan. I think I preferred Jonathan Davis really over Corey Taylor. I quite liked Korn, to be fair. So what bands did you guys grow up with? Did they have an influence on the music? Like I think James said earlier about like Alter Bridge and things like that. What is everybody's musical influences?
Alter Bridge and Blackstone Cherry are definitely 2 of my main ones. And I was fortunate enough to see them in the past year. Tom and I went and saw Blackstone Cherry being supported by The Darkness, and they're just like phenomenal lineup. The Darkness were playing their set, and Justin Hawkins is such an exceptional frontman. And I turned to Tom at one point and said, "This is awesome. How can Blackstone Cherry top this?" And Tom turned to me and he said, "Because The Darkness have 1 frontman and Blackstone Cherry have 4." And they came out and then like played Me and Mary Jane, and then the curtain drops, and then it's just straight into it. That kind of energy is something that I personally am really drawn to. A lot of the bands that I used to listen to as a teenager were things like, Bullet from a Valentine and Skillet, and kind of what you would imagine is fairly just kind of chuggy hard rock music. I never really got into metal. I never got into screamo stuff. I'm still not hugely into it now, but that definitely kind of rubbed off on me.
It was Metallica that got me started just as a player. I mean, I know Lars obviously gets a lot of flack as a drummer, but I mean he was
going to say, if your inspiration was Lars, like you are.
he was definitely the guy who got me started for sure. I mean, I grew up watching like music videos for Queen and other stuff, but then I heard I think it was when I heard Harvester of Sorrow off the Justice album, and my mind went. So I'm still a huge fan of that, as anybody who knows me knows. But I think from a songwriting like performance point of view, like I don't think you can get much bigger influence than probably Blackstone Cherry for me.
What about Magnus? What have you got?
The whole life, really. Like I used to take like piano lessons and stuff when I was really quite young, and did like drums and guitar and all sorts of things. So like guitar, I finally stuck with like through my teens and stuff like that. And I've only really taken up bass recently. But like joining these guys. But I mean, in terms of so like my musical influences, like at the roots, are when I was playing piano and drums and stuff like that. And my teacher was like all blues and like jazz and stuff like that. So that's kind of, and also my parents listened to lots of blues and things like that. So that's kind of the roots of my music. But then, yeah, basically the same as Tom after that, Metallica happened, and then the rest was history, you know. Like, and then I listen to way heavier stuff than these guys do normally. I think I'm more of the metal head of the group, although Dave's been getting into it of late, as I understand. But yeah, I got into like in my late teens. I got into like Children of Bodom and Arch Enemy and stuff, and then Opeth.
yeah.
And then basically Opeth happened after that, and then I'm like that's carried me to till today, basically stuff like that, sort of progressive technical stuff. So I'm kind of the square peg with this lot. I'm more of a metal-y guy.
Hey everyone, sorry to interrupt the interview mid-flow. I just wanted to say, if you like this episode and you want to see more, then don't forget to hit that subscribe button down at the bottom of the page. And if you want to be the first to see the brand new episode of In the Sewers, then don't forget to ding that little old bell. So come on everybody, ring my bell and let's get back to it.
What about Dave? What about your influences down there, my dear? Right at the bottom of my screen.
So, as Magnus alluded to earlier, I'm actually I'm quite into like the metal side of things, like he is, maybe more than Tom and James are. But the irony of that is, when I first got into music, which was quite late actually, I only really got into music when I was maybe like 16, 17, and that's when I started to play guitar. Before that, it wasn't really much of an interest to me. But back then, I absolutely hated metal, like, you know, stuff like Metallica and you know, that kind of thing. I just wasn't for me at all. Like, I remember really vividly one of my best friends back at school. He was a big Metallica fan, and he would let me hear the Black Album. And ironically enough, as much as I love that album now, I hated it back then. I just thought it was horrendous. I can't even explain why. I just thought it was terrible. It's like, oh, it's just noise, you know, all that kind of like stuff that people aren't into metal say about metal.
Yes.
That was kind of me back then. But then fast forward to present day, and I love that stuff. And like one of my favorite bands of all time is Pantera, and like Dimebag Darrell's a huge influence on me. Maybe not so much. It probably doesn't translate much into this band, but I do love that kind of thing. And,
I was going to say, which version of Pantera do you like? Because they started out as a glam band.
Well, yes, I would say, yeah.
We're not doing it, boys. We're not going there. We're not
going their first album was Cowboys from Hell, and that's the end of it. But sign of the times, I guess. But nothing wrong with a bit of hair metal. Like, I love like Motley Crue and Poison and all that. And one of the bands actually I do love that were kind of came along at the wrong time is Extreme.
Yeah.
Like they kind of peaked in like the early 90s, well, late 80s into the early 90s, and they kind of missed the boat in a sense, many people would argue. But it's a shame because like they're phenomenal. Like Porno Graffiti, their second album's like an absolute phenomenon.
Yeah.
I've said this to the guys before and various other pals of mine. I almost kind of wish that I was born sooner than I was. So in like 1990, 91, I would have been about 2-3 years old. But I kind of wish I was more like in my teens, because for me, like the kind of music I like, that's kind of when things were really top tier, in my opinion, because you had Extreme coming along, you had Pantera coming along, Metallica were at their peak. You had Alice in Chains, like bringing out, like they were just coming out with like Dirt and stuff like that, and just phenomenal albums that I'm all about nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, you guys seem to perform really, really well together, though, and you seem very like connected with your audience when you perform. And do you think that's an important factor that people really need to kind of gain as musicians?
Yeah, absolutely. There's nothing annoys me more than going to a metal gig, or any gig, and all the musicians are standing with like statue still, playing their instruments very accurately and correctly, and I'm falling asleep on my feet. I hate that. If
Me
you're not
too.
moving around, if you're not putting on a show, why am I here? Why am I not at home listening to the album? You
I've
know?
seen that several times. It's just so uncomfortable watching that with the band are just not interacting at all. And I like when I went to college, I mean, we were put into college bands and you do gigs at the end of the year and things like that. And your tutors are you're basically being evaluated on how well you perform. So you learn it that way that if you stand stock still, it's just not going to end well. Actually put on a performance. If you stand stock still, people are going to be so bored that they simply will not come next time you're in the area. They just will not be interested.
But then to do that as a band, I mean, it means that you have to, as individuals, put yourself out of your comfort zone a bit. I don't think that I'm a natural frontman in the sense that the first time I had to play guitar and sing at the same time, I wasn't thinking about audience engagement. And I think now we really get a huge buzz off playing live and having people enjoy our gigs. But we kind of expect it from our crowds too. So like most of our shows start, we play a big note. Magnus and I run off the stage. We've got wireless units. We run around the crowd a bit. We come up and we really try and get the crowd, kind of on board. There will be hands in pockets. And I always make the joke that if the hands come out of the pockets and people are tapping their feet, they really like what you're playing. But it's trying to draw that out of people. And the earlier you play in a bill, the more you've got to work to get that out of the crowd. But what we find is you do that, you put in the effort, and you come off stage, and then people are like, "We love that. We loved your set." So, yeah. And I think we're that.
Even if it doesn't quite work and people don't quite, I mean, they appreciate the effort. They really do. They even if they're not ready to, cut loose and be like, I haven't had enough drinks yet. They'll appreciate that. Oh, these guys are putting the effort in. At least, they're trying.
Yeah, it doesn't always fully translate, but that's just the way of the world. Because I was going to say sometimes it can go too far the other way. Like if you James mentioned, like if you're sooner on the bill, it's your job's that much more difficult. So I don't know if the other guys agree, but like I kind of feel if you're an opening band and you try too hard, it can kind of rub people up the wrong way a little bit because they're like, well, I'm not here to see you.
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
So,
you kind of have to kind of play with it, smartly in that sense, kind of try too hard, or you're kind of too in their face in that sense. It can kind of work against you. So, but James is right in a sense of it's in your hands. You're not really responsible, or you can't directly influence how a crowd feels about you, but you can do your best to get them on side.
So how did you guys come up with the name Blackfyre Rising? Like, and why the Y in the spelling? Why the Y?
James?
So, yeah, we originally came up with the name Liquefyre, which is meant to be like liquid fire. I have a thing about why use an I when a Y will do. So we took liquid fire and then we kind of made Liquefyre, and then we were sitting on it and thinking, we don't really like that name. And I was listening to Greta Van Fleet, and they have a song called Black Smoke Rising, and I thought, well, why don't we take the fire from Liquefyre and we'll have Blackfyre Rising, which was quite cool. But then people think that it's a Game of Thrones reference because the Blackfyre Rebellion and Blackfyre is spelled the same way is something that happens in Game of Thrones. But there's no connection.
I also thought this.
Yes.
I missed the memo.
Just want to say,
I think this might be fake news.
I mean, it's quite interesting, you just wait for the different kind of spellings and stuff. And I don't know why I kind of got, because at first when I saw the name, I thought maybe it was kind of Norse kind of inspired. I don't know why that came into my head, but it just did.
It's a good connection. I mean, we have had our name misspelled so many times. Me and Dave were at a gig once where we were supporting a band, and the girlfriend of, I think, like the singer, of the headliner singer, was doing the door and then taking tickets. And then this one guy was like, "Oh, you guys are really cool. What's the name of all the bands?" And then she wrote down the names of the bands, and she wrote something like Grey Friars Bobbing or something. And we were like, that's not our name.
That ain't it.
We've had a lot of them. About Black Rise Firing or whatever.
But that's quite surprising that you haven't got a lot of venues like up in Scotland, because you guys seem to really have a burgeoning music scene, especially when it comes to rock right now. There seems to be so many Scottish rock bands that are coming out. So it's like, well, where do they play other than, like you said, the Labyrinth or Bannerman's? And it's like, well, in
I
the
think
Pat House in
the problem with the Scottish music, well, not a problem per se, but the what I've noticed anyway is just a lot of it, 90% of it seems to revolve around Glasgow. So, that's why I'm really into Bleed From Within as well, and they're a phenomenal Glasgow band. So I think that's part of the country that's a bit more, there's a bit more room for that kind of thing. Edinburgh's cool for that, but
Edinburgh and Glasgow have got the most venues for sure. They've got the most opportunities for sure.
Yeah.
But Glasgow's even above us.
Glasgow
any
focus
touring
on kind of
bands.
indie stuff. Yeah, Glasgow has a focus more on indie and traditional bands. I think that what we find is that there are, you've got your staple, Banshee, Bannerman's, Labelle, and Gel in Edinburgh. I'm not sure that we know enough about Glasgow to say, well, here are where kind of the rock places are, but we've played at like Ivory Blacks and Audio Glasgow. We're playing at the Garage. We've played headline shows in Aberdeen. Krakatoa is a great venue. Beyond that, it becomes a little bit difficult. Now, if anyone's listening to this going, we're in Scotland and we have a venue and we'd love you to play, get in touch. We're always up for new venues and new places. We were invited to a gig in Newton Stewart.
That was bizarre.
Down in Dumfries and Galloway in the Galloway Hills. It was really proper country roads to get there, and we were going there. We all thought going down, I wonder if there's going to be anyone here. And that was one of the best gigs we've ever played. Packed room, everybody singing the songs like we would go back in a heartbeat. So sometimes it really does surprise you. I think it depends what aspect of the writing. Sorry, you'll notice I've turned off my overhead light.
I was going to say, what happened? Did you not put a penny in the meter?
James
it became dark and brooding. It depends what aspect of the writing. I think we have a tendency to write our music before we write our lyrics. That's probably not. There we go.
Magnus has now turned his light off and all.
Agus looks like he's under interrogation. Where were you the night of July 32nd? July 32nd.
Your riffs, give me them.
Well, unfortunately, it looks like we're running out of time. So, my last question is, if there is any budding musicians, especially in Scotland, where you guys have a very flourishing rock scene, what would be your words of guidance and encouragement?
Give up, quit, run away, do something else. Have a solid understanding of what you're trying to achieve and make good connections. I think what we've found is, Tom really is the powerhouse when it comes to getting us gigs. I think the last time I got us a gig was like last April or something. So, and because he knows all of these people, he goes up and he chats to the main band. He knows, your Ian from Twister, and going up and speaking to these guys, and that's how we end up getting this interview. So it's all, that's how it kind of works, knowing other guys in bands. And just approaching bands and asking them, hey, if you've got any shows, do you fancy putting us on? If
play open mic nights.
Play open mic nights.
Do open mic nights. One thing I would say is don't be afraid of not knowing what to do. Because as James said, a lot of it, like show-wise, whatever, is because I'll get in touch with people. I've only recently had kind of the balls to be able to do that. And it's not perfect. We're not headlining Wembley and all that kind of thing, but learn what the process is and don't be afraid to talk to people. And I'm naturally kind of a shy guy. I'm not that great at talking to people, but it makes a difference when you can. And just try and actually get involved and learn from what other bands are doing as well. That's what I've done.
And always be humble. It doesn't matter how good you think you are. You can put a lot of time and energy and practice into perfecting a show, and then it doesn't go right for 100 reasons. So, never kind of get too big for your boots.
Leave your ego at the door. That's one thing. I've seen it with musicians who bring the ego with them, and they're demanding things like gigs or whatever it might be. And I can guarantee you, if you don't get blackballed from somewhere or from a certain promoter, they'll all at least know who you are. Word will spread. You'll just shoot yourself in the foot every time you do it. So just don't. Be
crucial
nice.
one.
Be nice.
A really crucial one is don't use Ket and then play drums. We know what we're talking
That
about.
was fucking hilarious.
Tip.
Know what we're talking
Pro
about.
tip.
Like, just
Not mentioning any names, but yes, we've seen that.
It wasn't us. We have a pretty clear policy that like we don't dabble in that
No.
stuff. So,
You don't shit where you eat.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
There's a
that's
reason
that's
we
fact of
don't,
life.
and yeah, just don't do that. Bad
No.
idea.
Well, on that note, thank you so much, boys, for joining Glamrat in the Sewers. I wish you all the luck in the world going into 2024. I'll keep an eye out for new music. You know where to find me, but please stay safe, and I'll catch you all very, very soon.
Thank you very
Awesome.
much.
Thanks. See you later.
Thanks so much, Charlie.
See ya.
Have a good one.
Adios.
Bye.
Thank you very much to Blackfyre Rising for taking the time out to sit down and chat to little old me. They have just released a new video and music over on Spotify and YouTube, so the links are going to be in the description below. And if you like what they're doing and you want to keep up to date with everything that is going on to do with the boys from Blackfyre Rising, then make sure you check out their socials, which are going to be down in the description below. In next week's episode, I am talking to heavy metal band Steal the City. And of course, with a name like that, they come from Sheffield. I talked to Joe and we have a bit of a natter about how we first met, what we have got going on going into the future, how they love the festival scene, and what is next for the band. Please stay safe, and until next time, I'll catch you later, Glamratters. Bye-bye.